Okay, I guess we're live. New and improved updates to YouTube made things take a little longer, but
Yeah,
hopefully it's working.
improved.
Oh yeah, and everything changed now. I can't see any of the things I normally see.
Yeah, joy. Like
Great. Thanks,
they
YouTube.
certainly made it better, didn't they?
Yeah.
That could be a topic of conversation too. I'm sure we
Right.
could get into that. Oh my God. Um, but yeah,
Well,
I
what
guess.
should we talk about there? What
Well, I
war?
mean, we could. This might be just kind of a mix of a whole bunch of different things. First off, I want to say that my beloved cat Floyd passed away last night. He was warm, comfortable, and not in pain, and he had company. But yeah, he's been part of my life since 2012, so that's kind of a big deal. And obviously, he's kind of a mascot of the show, making an appearance randomly, coming up and rubbing on the
Yep.
microphone and stuff. Um,
Screaming anytime we started,
yeah,
live streaming.
yep, yeah, yeah, exactly. Anytime we were recording or live streaming, he would just start yelling. But
I
yeah,
think I think Floyd's greatest appearance ever was our first Halloween special, though.
yep, it was, yeah, yeah.
People should definitely check that out since it's almost Halloween anyway. So,
That's a good point. Yeah, it's a good time to circle back and watch that. We have two Halloween specials, one from 2019, one from 2020.
hmm
Both of them are pretty good. And Floyd is in both, actually.
Yep, that's right.
Brief appearance in both. Yeah. So, I mean, there's that. That I guess that's the cloud over today. Uh,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I mean, we were kind of talking about a whole bunch of things before. I mean, one is this kind of like push within Canada, Alberta particularly, and to some extent Saskatchewan, um, to break away from Ottawa, essentially from Canada proper, and kind of be their own thing. There's more and more traction in that regard, mostly because it's kind of like what I would equate it to, and it's sort of like Washington State, right? You have Western Washington with all the big cities, and you have the coastal side, and then you have Eastern Washington that's a lot of like farmland and stuff with mountains dividing the two sides. So it's like they're basically two totally different worlds. Um, but yet the population density is much higher on the west side, and they basically dictate whatever the rules are, taxes and laws and stuff like that. And the eastern side of Washington can't do anything about it because they don't have the numbers. And in a way, I think like Alberta feels that way. Like Ottawa is kind of like being a dictator and lording over them, and they really just don't have any like way not enough representation. Um,
I don't know that you can slice a pie small enough that you're not going to have that effect. It's not
too
really
true.
dictating. It's not, I mean, like the kind of thing you see happening in the US right now where like, there's actual like flagrant push against the Constitution and stuff, like that's getting closer to that, than like,
Well,
oh my God, I don't want to pay this tax
I
just
guess
because you
no.
lost
Well, it's
a
more. It's
vote.
a hell of a lot more than taxes. It has. There's
Yeah.
all kinds of things, well, basically, it's sort of like they don't have as much autonomy as they ought to have, and a lot of people feel, probably rightfully so, that the more populous governance section or whatever makes decisions that they can't do anything about, basically making decisions for them without really considering them. Like
hmm
you look at the laws, so Washington State is a really good example of that. It's like, look at the laws passed in Washington State. The laws and taxes and things are all geared towards the Western side. And rarely do they consider Eastern Washington, which is two-thirds of the state's volume, by the way. It's huge. It's massive. And yet they kind of have to play by whatever rules the Western side their decisions essentially.
I mean,
This we've
volume
talked about.
is volume though. Like people aren't volume, like geographic volume,
Well, this is true,
you
but
know.
nevertheless, that is the state of things. That, like, okay, there's still a lot of people in Eastern Washington, and they have a totally different way of life. There's a totally different world, almost a different economy, and yet the Western side, I would almost say not even the Western side, but specifically the I-5 corridor, and in particular, Tumwater to Everett, essentially, this little block rules the roost. And they can't do anything. They can vote all they want, but it doesn't do diddly shit. Like, oh yeah, Olympia decides for, actually it's technically Seattle. Let's be clear here that that is the way it is. And I I'm all for people saying, like, hey, you know what? Let's get out of here. This isn't benefiting us. Like, we're better off on our own. And this idea, because we've talked about balkanization, like how the US probably would benefit from that. um,
Mm.
like, let's take Washington State for example. If Western Washington and Western Oregon joined together, and then Eastern Washington and Eastern Oregon joined together at like two separate states, they'd be fine. Like, oh yeah, these two states, like, they are kind of similar. Like, they have similar views or needs and culture, and that, I don't see a problem with that.
But
Like,
I
what?
wonder if like having such a homogenous state is always such a good thing because there are homogenous states,
Mm-hmm.
um, like, in the Midwest, for example, like
Mm-hmm.
you're pretty much guaranteed to be like red, 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 red
Well, you
everywhere,
could say like Wyoming is a good example of a homogenous state.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oklahoma or something,
Yeah.
like,
Although
and
Wyoming has like more cows than people. So there is that.
so
Um,
so I wonder if like there's a bit of a trade-off because they don't necessarily have uh like any kind of commercial presence in in the federal scope of things.
mhm.
And so as a byproduct, like in a federal sense, that they're kind of swallowed up anyway. Like I guess what I'm driving at is like what we're looking at here is really just boiling back down to the two-party dichotomy problem. If
Yeah.
there were more than two parties, we wouldn't be seeing this in black and white. We'd be seeing this as like, oh, you know what? Like there's actually like competition of ideas,
Mhm.
but we don't have that really.
No,
So,
no, we don't. And I guess what kind of my thought when it comes to, let's say, like just the Washington, Oregon thing, if you were to split it, instead of, north to south, you split it east to west, along the mountains. Um, it, 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 it's not really a partisan thing. It's more of like the political representation for a particular culture being connected with that culture. Because, like, I guarantee that 100% of the people, representatives in Olympia, in Washington State, have no idea what goes on in Eastern Washington, and don't care. They're like focused on Seattle and I-5 corridor, all this stuff. And well, clearly, I mean, it's evidenced by their legislation and decision making and stuff like that. But maybe at least in that regard, it's like you have more agrarian stuff on the east side of the mountains. But basically, if you were to draw a line, through Washington and Oregon, like splitting it, um, it's a much more agrarian lifestyle, kind of some industry and some things. Obviously, Spokane would probably be an outlier in a way, but in general, um, it's built on farming and largely, um, and but the West Coast, the West Side, definitely is not quite so much built on that. It's more urban. and tech oriented, obviously, especially in Washington State, very, very tech oriented. Um, and it's like, hey, you know what? I think that would be a reasonable split to where everybody would feel like, hey, our representatives are connected with us, um, rather than like, oh yeah, there's these city boys over there making decisions for us farming people, which is,
I
I
guess
could definitely see how they would resent that.
which representatives are we talking about though? Because state representatives, there's nothing but Republican representatives on the east side of Washington, for
Yeah,
instance.
yeah, this is
You know,
true,
like
but
they are represented at the state level,
no,
and so everything that goes on within the state is actually, like they actually do have a fair playing field.
they do. However, they're outnumbered by the people on the west. That's where I think the issue is, and the same thing in Oregon. Like they just don't have the population so oh boy, I don't know.
But like when it comes to voting, are you talking about like because like stuff that affects a certain district isn't voted for outside of that district either,
Well, there's state level things and then there's federal level things too that are
but there's
that can
but
be
there's
challenging.
also local level things
Yeah,
too.
and the local stuff that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about how Washington State is basically controlled by Olympia and Seattle, all of it. Like it doesn't matter what you think living in I don't know, Colville. Like, oh well, if the people in Olympia decide to do this thing, we all have to do it, I guess. And
Hmm.
and that breeds resentment. And it obviously is unfair because, and that's sort of the same thing in Canada, that Alberta and Saskatchewan are feeling. And of course, the, one of the things is there, because we've had comments on one of the videos that we did,
Yeah.
where people are saying, oh well, you don't know, and and they disagree, and like, yeah, okay, there are a lot of people who want things to remain status quo, as there always are, and then there's a lot of people who don't. So I don't know what to do in that situation. It's really tough.
Yeah.
uh, but I
Most of the comments were people being like, I think they're more pissed at me because, like I, I actually don't know anything about it
oh
and I'm
yeah.
sitting here talking about it.
Yeah.
Uh, but um and actually we're just kind of talking about Washington mostly right now, but
Mhm.
uh, I don't know that unfair is the right word because this is really, I mean, this is like an individual's perspective on something based on where they live, looking out at the bigger picture from a very myopic place, like
Yeah.
like and that's natural, of course. Like when I lived in Memphis, um, like the state level things usually did not agree with what I would be voting for or something, but
Mhm.
like that's just the system we live in. It's not really like, it's also not like life is that miserable either,
No, no,
like
absolutely. And I think maybe, I guess my take on all of this is like, yeah, because actually, if you step outside and walk around, everybody's just going about their daily business, and they're, going to the park, they're getting gas, they're watching a baseball game, whatever, just doing their thing, and life's all right. However, I think it'd be nice if at least, like, when you have disparate cultures, they sort of have their own conjoined, or I don't know how to, like the people making the big decisions should be them. It's kind of like if you look at the tribes, right? The tribes are sort of autonomous nations in a sense, even though they're under the umbrella of the U.S. And they have their own rules, they have their own police force, that like everything is kind of their own thing, and they're only beholden to federal things on a very limited scale. And that's as it should be. I believe it totally should be that way. But we also, that's the thing. It's like there's a big difference between urban culture and agrarian culture. It's very, very different. And the rules that should be set into place to manage all that are very different. Like you can't just say, oh yeah, one rule to rule them all. Oh, this is everybody plays by, because it doesn't. It's like inapplicable or harmful to one side or the other. I mean, imagine if Eastern Washington was the more populous and they made all the decisions that applied to Western Washington. Well, people in the I-5 corridor, they'd be pissed because, like, well, wait a minute, we don't have farms here. Well, I mean, there are, but
It's actually a lot.
yeah, but it isn't like the mainstay, like the linchpin upon which the entire culture exists, like the economy. Um, Obviously, I-5 corridor is more industry and tech and stuff like that. Um, there's a little bit on both sides of both
There's
things.
actually like a still a huge amount of farmland. Like actually even every state I would say in
Mhm.
America is mostly farm. Like
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
there's a lot of open spaces everywhere you go in in that
Well,
country.
and
Uh,
that I think is something that we ought to consider. Is like, hey, when we're making rules, we need to maybe consider that,
well,
because it is a different world. Like the needs and wants of those of the urban and the agrarian areas are very different.
yeah,
Very, very different.
there might be a like an alternative option that would make more sense to um, focus on the specific problem that we're talking about, which is
Mm,
representing a very important and integral part of the economy of the entire country, even
mhm.
the world, like,
Okay.
and that is farming.
Yeah.
But pound for pound, as far as like per capita and population and all that stuff goes, like there's not that many of them, like,
Well, no,
and
but
that's just the way it is. It's a lot of land that a few people are owning and doing a lot of important work for, but the
Mhm.
representation, the way it's built off of is population density,
Yeah.
and maybe there needs to be some like special rule for farming legislation to be approached in a different way.
Well, for sure. And I just think to the bumper sticker that I have on the back of my pickup truck is no farms, no food. Um,
Hmm.
and that farming is a very important thing. And I think
Well, we could
people,
grow everything in laboratories.
but yes, well, and you will, in fact, wouldn't be surprised in maybe a few decades if you go to Eastern Washington and there's labs growing meat and stuff.
That would
Obviously,
be so much better, in my opinion,
but it'll
for
happen.
everything, the
It,
economy, the
yeah,
environment,
it'll happen. But I would still love to see cattle ranching and stuff like that should still exist. It's part of human history
it
that
always will
yeah.
because there's you know there's always going to be the pundits and the organic types that
Mhm.
just want to do it the old school way, the Will Rikers that still want
Yeah.
to cook with fire.
And
And
yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh man, that episode is such a good one where he made the egg thing and everybody was like, oh, and then Worf was like, delicious. Oh yeah. Well, and also there's probably going to be a lot of specialty um things where instead of like, because when the broader population of farmers basically making meat are doing it in labs, um, the old school organic way will be much more valuable. So there'll be a market for that of like, oh, real meat, you know. It's kind of reminds me. Geez, I always have these weird references to things, but in the movie Blade Runner, um, Deckard asked the prostitute slash I don't know, dancer lady. She has a snake that she performs with. And he asked if the snake is real, and she's like, "Of course not. You think I could afford a real snake?" Um, and that because in that world, it's like everything is fabricated artificially. So
Mm.
like a real snake is super valuable, and then like these manufactured ones are just a dime a dozen. But yeah, I mean, but culture is important, and representing and respecting different cultures is important. And I think when we just focus solely on population, we lose that capacity to where it's like, oh, the majority rules essentially. Like, oh well, you're outvoted, bitch. Sorry, what are you gonna do? And that's a problem. That's a problem with democracy, I would say. That I don't
I
know how to
mean,
fix that.
yeah, I mean, like it's not perfect, but there isn't really a better way of like, or a more fair way of doing it, let's say,
Well,
that
and
anybody has ever thought of in the history of humanity.
I know. Well, and a
So
more
like to call it unfair is kind of like, what do you want from, reality?
well, I
Like,
mean, unfair as in like this is just the way it is, and it can be unfair, not intentionally. It just that's how it works out,
mm,
essentially. No, you're right. I think the democratic process is about as good as we've come up with, but it does leave a lot of things dangling, kind of left unconsidered,
hanging
and then
chads,
huh?
hanging chads.
Hanging chads, yeah. Well, but I think I don't know. Maybe one way to overcome this is to make it a point where people have like you're expected to immerse yourself in other cultures. Like if you live on the I-5 corridor in Washington State, like you maybe part of your schooling is to go to Eastern Washington and help on a farm for a little bit, or kind of work go to the one of the tribal areas and do some stuff there, and just so you get a sense of like, oh yeah, it's more than just Seattle. I, there's a song that I'll probably have AI make this now, but I had this song idea back in like the early 2000s called "There's Nothing South of Seattle," because that is people in Seattle believe that like they don't know all they know is Seattle,
Mhm.
and it's almost like, oh yeah, the whole state is Seattle. Like no, it isn't. In fact, Seattle is almost nothing compared to what Washington State is. It's a big
Mhm.
place and it's very diverse culturally, racially,
Geographically,
geographically, the climate. It's all over the place.
rainforest, desert, coast,
Yeah,
like
mountains and
mountains, like everything.
everything. Yeah, it's yeah, it's a microcosm of like the whole planet in a way,
Mhm.
which is why I think people keep coming back to Washington because like it's awesome. It's an
Yeah,
awesome place.
yeah.
But like, yeah, and I think it's like that. Maybe that's something that we need to like politicians, legislators, whoever need to like if they're going to make a decision, they need to consider all of the angles, not just the one. But they don't because they're kind of in bed with corporations and stand to make a lot of money by passing certain legislation to do things that only really affect this little tiny sliver of the state.
Well, that is kind of the crux of it. I was going to bring up is that money does kind of fuel all of these problems if you think about it, because you know, I like a broken record. I keep coming back to the fact that we really do kind of have the means and the wherewithal to be post scarce.
Mm-hmm.
And when you lay out all the things that we need as a society, and try to look at them irrespective of like a currency value,
Mm-hmm.
the things that we expect to be cheap are actually like quite high on the value scale. like we're
Hmm.
talking about with farming,
Yeah.
like as far as like actual value for human life goes, it should be, you know,
Like
the
top
$10,000
five or something.
purchase that we think really hard about, like it's
Yeah.
super important. But
Yeah.
instead we're thinking really hard, do I want the Cadillac or do I want the Ferrari or like
Well, and if you look at like where tax revenue from Washington State goes, like obviously, I'm sure you're aware of the rail system that's been in the works for like the last several decades. Billions and billions and billions of dollars dumped into this thing that only benefits this really narrow, basically it parallels I-5. So it's like, oh, yeah, you can ride a train instead of drive a car and go from, well, I think maybe Everett to Olympia. Ultimately, they may end up something like that. Just this little tiny stretch, which has nothing to do with any of the rest of the state. So, like, oh, we're footing the bill for something that we're never going to use. That it's like,
well, okay, I mean, there are rail systems and trains that you can take to get to these other locations, but for commuting purposes, nobody's doing that anyway. Like
yeah,
you're not living in Tukwila and working in Yakima or something,
mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
so it
Although
it does make
crazy,
sense to a degree to like alleviate traffic
so
problems or whatever, but
well, and actually, crazy thing. Like the East and the West are slowly connecting because more and more people are moving into places like Cle Elum,
mm,
on the eastern side of the mountains, and
yeah.
commuting down I-90 to Seattle for work because this is the wild thing. It is quicker to commute across the pass to Seattle than it is to say, like, oh, I'm going to live in Tacoma and commute back and forth. Like, oh, you're better off
Mm.
actually going all the way over these mountains. And it's also cheaper too. It's like, oh, land is cheaper, but of course it won't be as more and more people do that.
Yeah.
Um, and then they're going to spread out further and further. That whole thing that actually ought to be part of a conversation is like, how the hell do we solve that problem?
Yeah,
Um,
and the cost of land and everything, like it, just like everything else, like it constantly creeps up, but it never really comes back down. Like
well, yeah, if
there
you look
might
at
be
the,
a slight bubble burst,
yep,
but it's more like this,
yep,
like it's constantly creeping up,
like the
and
price of gas, essentially.
yeah, and nothing else, as far as like income creeps up with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, and that's why people are moving. Tacoma used to be the hot place
Hmm.
back in the day, but now it's kind of not because Tacoma's pretty damn expensive. Um,
Yeah.
I should know. I live there. Um, it's really expensive, and so people are moving east and stuff, and they're moving into places like South Hill and Graham and some of the more rural. Well, they're not
That
that
shit ain't
rural
cheap
anymore,
either.
huh?
That's not cheap out there either.
No,
But
it used to be.
I remember 5 years ago when I was there, kind of like homeless, looking for a place. I was like, oh, geez, let me look at what's out in Graham. And it's like, oh, 2,500 for a one bedroom. Oh, Jesus
Hmm.
Christ. And then you commute 2 hours to work.
Yeah,
It's like,
Yelm
why are
is
you
another.
paying that much to live 2 hours from work?
Yeah, I know. Oh, geez, it's whoa, that boy. This is a conversation worth having, I think.
Yeah,
And the idea, this is the state level thing, like Washington State, let's say Olympia. Um, their answer is basically, oh, we're going to build this rail system, which doesn't include anything aside from stuff right next to I-5, which is stupid because it's like, well, we have I-5, right? Why don't make that, improve that so that works a little bit better? No, no, instead, we're just going to forget about that and we're going to build a rail system adjacent to it and hope that everybody rides it, which it's like, there's a lot of people who drive cars because they have to. Like the places they live and the places they work are nowhere near the main thoroughfare. So,
yeah.
or maybe they have to bring like it, you got to bring tools or your equipment and your gear and whatnot. And so this idea that everybody's just going to be we're going to have this utopian future where everybody rides trains. Like, okay, that works in some places of the world, but it doesn't necessarily work here. Like,
Eh.
we've got to address that. That is it's almost, I would almost say it's an impossible problem.
Had I actually ran for governor in Washington, I probably would have said something like, you know what, like I would like to funnel money into uh, putting tourist attractions outside of where all the other tourist attractions are and
Oh,
help build the whole state up,
that's a, yeah.
like have something cool to see and do in Okanagan. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing in Northeast Washington,
No.
just farm,
I think
endless farm, and
the
some
only,
really beautiful landscape.
oh,
Like it would
absolutely.
be a great place for people to go visit and drive
Uh-huh.
around and see
I
cool
mean,
shit,
hell, even Eastern
Grand Coulee
Washington,
Dam and stuff.
though Eastern Washington is fairly desolate, it's also very beautiful.
Hmm.
There's a lot of cool things. A good example, I think, of something in Washington State that uh, is kind of a something akin to that as a tourist attraction is Leavenworth.
Yep.
So it was a mining town, if I recall correctly, and was declining after the mining dried up. And so some enterprising people were like, well, how do we keep this town alive? And they're like, well, hey, we'll go German. Well, we'll
Hmm.
make it this is a German themed, like old school German
Yep.
themed town. And it'll be a place where people are going to want to come because like it's totally different. You go to
Technically
Leavenworth and
Bavarian,
Bavarian. Yeah.
I
Okay.
must
That's right.
point out as a
Oh,
honorary
yes.
German.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Apologies there. Yeah. But I mean, similar. I mean, they do Oktoberfest, right? um, but and it's now a tourist. It's a destination. People will like make a trip to go to Leavenworth for skiing or these festivals
mhm.
they have and stuff like that. And it's all you go there and it's like,
Christmas tree lighting.
yeah,
Yeah.
like we need more of
And
that.
all and like even the subway there
Mhm.
has like the old school like white walls with the dark brown wood
Yeah,
lattice work and stuff. Like
yeah.
it's super cool. Yeah.
And maybe in a way, if I guess if we had government funds to be put into projects like that, um, that like the money, the revenue generated from all the tourism could fund some of these other projects, like the light rail and stuff. Because I do believe, like I do criticize the concept of like, hey, everybody's gonna ride the train and it'll be just fine. Like, okay, yeah, you look at Europe or Japan or something like that. And yeah, well, they use rail all the time, but the like the whole infrastructure was built up around that. We built our infrastructure in the US around cars. So like trying to do that retroactively, oh my God.
It's
What
technically thanks to Hitler because he spent so much money building all that railway infrastructure for, like getting new tanks and all that stuff. Like
military transport?
so
Well, even the
so that's
Autobahn.
that's why the infrastructure here, especially in Germany, is actually so great. And even here in Germany, like people constantly complain that the train's late and stuff. Like you'll never please everyone,
No, this
especially
is
when it comes
true.
to commuting,
I
so
know. Well, yeah, like basically any kind of government project is always behind by like a
mhm.
decade. You know, they
Anytime someone's complaining about the trains here, I'm like, you should go to Seattle sometime.
no kidding. Yep.
Try taking the bus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
more
my God.
like,
I would almost kind of feel like I want to document taking a bus using only, not Greyhound or any of the private things, only
mhm,
using public transport to get from one part of the state to another part, like a go some long distance and see
mhm.
what the experience is. And I can tell you, just even within Tacoma, it's shit. Just like getting out of Tacoma can take hours and hours. And oh
You
my
should,
God.
you should totally like do it like Oregon Trail. Like,
Oh, yeah. Am I going to die of dysentery before I get there? Oh, man. Yeah.
It
Well,
reminds me of a meme I saw where somebody did like the Oregon Trail thing, and it was like, "You've died of RFK Jr.'s bullshit." Like,
oh man. Well, hopefully it was in like green and black,
yep.
like classic Apple II
Hmm.
uh, graphics. Man, yeah. I don't. Oh boy, this is a big can that we've opened here.
Yeah.
Um, there's there's a lot to consider, but I'm like, I guess my thought still is like the fact that the people who hold the purse, most of it, and they make the decisions, are not connected to anything but their own little bubble.
Yeah.
Like in general.
My my piece of advice to any province or state that wants to secede and do things on their own, don't just keep the status quo. Like,
Yeah.
actually put some thought and elbow grease into starting a new system that addresses the grievances that you had in the first place
Yeah.
so that they don't happen again, because they will, sooner
Inevitably.
than
Yeah.
you expect.
Oh yeah.
If
Well,
if you don't get completely trounced upon by the neighboring countries that are stronger and smarter and richer than you are, like,
the one way, of course, of dealing with that, the last thing you said, is trade. And say like going into say Alberta. Alberta has a lot
what's
of leverage.
Saskatchewan got to trade?
Well, they probably have. I think it's farming and stuff, and oil and industry. I haven't looked into all of that. I mean, obviously, I live in the U.S., so I'm more familiar with
Mhm.
stuff in the U.S. But I'm sure everybody's got something to give. Like if you go to Eastern Washington, right? They're the hop capital of the world. They also they produce a lot of apples. That's a huge deal. There's a lot of stuff that comes out of Eastern Washington. Like I think people take them for granted, and they're like, "Well, there's no way they could survive on their own." Well, no, absolutely they could. They're used to it. Um, they're farmers, for God's sake.
Saskatchewan's main export is crude petroleum,
Oh,
but
there I called it.
its economy is also heavily reliant on exports of potash, wheat, canola seeds, oil, and uranium.
Uranium. Oh, that's a big deal.
Mm.
Actually, it's kind of funny. So the property that that I got in Nevada, down there by Winnemucca, um, it so me and a girlfriend went to go visit, and a neighbor in an adjacent property came down and talked to us and stuff, and he's like, oh man, you bought at the right time, because like they discovered lithium uh around here, and it's gonna get hot. Like
Hmm.
the property value is gonna go way up because
Oh,
people are
wow.
coming in to mine the lithium and stuff like that. So yeah, so even in the middle of the desert. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess I feel bad for people living in places where they don't really get considered that much, even though they're vital for our existence. Like you look at farming, like
Hmm.
how important, people don't realize, even in a world, let's say we fast forward a few decades to where we're creating lab grown meat and stuff like that. Well, we don't have lab grown wheat, you know, and corn and stuff. And it's like all this stuff, it's going to be a thing for a really long time. And farming is so important because food is really important. Um, and it's kind of, I feel like, having lived in Washington State my entire life, I kind of feel like Olympia really doesn't care that much about the farming communities. Like they just take them for granted. I think a lot of people take things for granted. They're just like, well, hey, there's food on the shelves in the grocery store, so I'm okay. It's like, well, where the hell did that food come from, huh?
Yeah.
You know, like we got to consider that. It's super important.
I mean, Washington's got a lot of money coming in from like apples and
Mm-hmm.
potatoes and stuff like that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's not that they don't appreciate or, you know, consider that, but I guess it would probably help me if I knew like some specifics about like what exactly is eating at the farmers. You know, like what's because I feel like if we actually dove into that rather than just listen to the squeaky wheel
Mhm.
sound, I wonder if it would actually be such a big deal. You know what I mean?
Well, I think anybody that works in farming, they're able to adapt to whatever comes their way. That's just life when you're a farmer.
Hmm.
But I would generally consider that. I guess my thought, just obviously from my limited scope of observation, is taxes, um, rules and regulations, um, things like that. I suppose there's a lot of federal stuff too that the state isn't doing to address too. So there's like federal things that are getting in the way of farmers doing their thing, and like the state is kind of dismissive of those things, and they're like, hey, uh, you know, uh, at least those are the things that come to mind when I'm thinking about it.
Well, I know the big one affecting the U.S. farmers right now is ICE agents. Like, by the way, pick up our abolish ICE swag. Uh, um, you know, like coming and taking their labor away, and of course, like there's no replacement for that. And
Well, not yet, but no, and it isn't. So it's kind of, I would say, sort of twofold. Like it, while like ICE has done some things, the greater impact is the fear that where people just don't show up to work because they're worried about it, not because like there's an actual threat, but because like, well, there could be. So
yeah,
lots of people are just like, oh well, I'm not going to take that chance, which I get it.
yeah,
It
I
makes
wouldn't.
sense.
Yeah, it's a justified fear.
Well, and while it's like I don't disagree with some of those actions, like what ICE has done, I think maybe it's kind of a shit show. Like
Yeah,
like okay, look, it's totally fine to go after people who have a criminal record and like they're part of a gang or whatever, that kind of stuff. But people that are just overstaying a visa and they're working and they're working at a farm, like, is that really that big of a deal? I
right.
mean, ultimately, they're still kind of paying taxes, maybe
You're
not federal, but
600 miles from the nearest urban center. You're probably not in a gang.
yeah,
So like leave
yeah.
the farms alone.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I completely, well, and again, going back to how important farms are, that needs to be considered. Like,
Yeah.
hey, this is a delicate thing. Maybe don't stick your fingers into the pie that you don't
Right.
understand what's in there.
Well, they're just now realizing what most people with common sense knew ahead of time is
Well,
this is really going to fuck up the economy because these people that are working for these really low wages do actually contribute to the economy in a huge way because
well,
they have to eat and sleep and somewhere and you know like
buy groceries
yeah
and
they are
clothing.
spending the money that they earn
Yeah.
here in the freaking country
Well,
so
yeah, well, and that's typical of politicians, by the way.
yeah
Like
yeah
whatever camp you settle in,
yeah
all politicians are idiots in that
and you're
regard.
giving $50,000 signing bonuses and 100,000 plus salaries to these people to like take those people away. Like,
Mhm.
okay, so you're
I know.
like throwing money away on all fronts.
Well, and as we I think the last week we talked about some of this, and the
Mhm.
fair tax would totally solve that. If we just went to like a national sales tax, well, there you go. Problem solved. It's like, oh, everybody's got to buy stuff. I mean, you can't be in a place without needing some stuff, right? Like whatever it be, shelter, clothing, food, water, fun stuff, whatever. Like you're gonna be buying things wherever you are.
Yeah.
um, unless you're some kind of mountain man and you just like live off the earth in the middle of nowhere. But like, who's going to do that? Most people won't.
Yeah.
Um, so like that would be a solution right there to take care of that, to basically make it so it doesn't really matter. If we went to the fair tax, then the argument of like, oh, they're taking our jobs, they're costing money, blah blah blah, all that stuff would just vanish because, oh well, they're paying the same shit that all of us are paying.
I
You
mean,
know?
technically they do anyway. Like if
Mm-hmm.
most states, I mean, like Oregon doesn't or whatever, but like most states at least have state and local sales tax.
Yeah.
So that money is going into the state, which where do you think it goes then? Does it evaporate? No, of course it fucking like,
Yeah.
it keeps circulating. And
Well,
so,
and it does
so
go into the federal side of things too, in
exactly,
some ways.
like,
So
somewhere downstream, no matter what, when you
mhm.
spend money, you're paying tax eventually.
Yeah.
Like that money goes to tax infinity, like
Well,
over and over and over again. Every
yeah.
time, every
Yep.
time the money moves, the government gets some, you
They
know?
take, whoop, thank you. I'll take that. Well, actually, yeah. So there was a guy at a tool store that is sadly closed now, but I used to go there all the time because they had literally everything. Like it was kind of like they had cheap stuff, kind of Harbor Freight level stuff, and then they had the high end stuff as well. So it's like, you could take your pick. It's a great store, but the guy was really talkative. Um, One of those people you go to check out and you're just standing there. Can I jabber at you? That kind of guy. Um, but he oh God, this is so long ago, but he outlined, um, he had done a bunch of research and came to the conclusion that basically 50% of your expenditures are expended in tax.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
half of everything you pay ends up somehow being tax payments in some way or another, whether it be like there's all kinds. I mean, he went into the. I mean, it was a big old, like almost like a tinfoil hat
Yeah.
conversation, but he was right. Like, okay, yeah, you're like, hey, Alex Jones was right, kind of thing. Uh, um, yeah. So, oh man, the problem I think isn't in who's paying tax and how much tax they're paying. It's where that tax money goes, how it's like stewarded and used to like, because it ought to be. I mean, I think everybody can agree, whoever you are, whatever your political leanings, that like, okay, if there's tax money being taken, it should be doing something beneficial and not be
Yeah.
frivolous, like frittered away for nothing. It should be helping us, like the taxpayer, right? I'm working an hour a day for the government. Actually, more than that if you account for state tax. Um, like I would like to see some kind of benefit. Uh, you know, even if it isn't specifically me, but if it's like the community, like people
Hmm.
around me, that they're like, hey, we're all lifted up in some way, we all benefit. Like this
I mean,
tax money that's extorted from me is at least doing something that I could be like, hey, that's a good thing.
the fact that society hasn't collapsed entirely
Yeah,
and there's still roads to drive on and you flush the toilet and it goes somewhere other than underneath your house.
yeah.
Like there's plenty to point to say that the government is actually doing good. Like it's intellectually dishonest to say that like tax is extortion and like it goes to no good and like
Well,
it's
okay,
theft and blah blah blah.
okay,
Like all
tax
that
is
stuff is
theft and it is extortion, but it does go to there is a lot of good. But my point was that it could do a lot more than it's doing. That's the
hmm.
thing. There's so much hemorrhaging of funds, like so much waste, so much bloat, that like, hey, you know what? If we didn't have all that, we could be doing so much more. And
Hmm.
but we're not. And that's the thing that makes me pissed, I
Yeah.
guess. Like I want to see that money. Okay, sure, obviously administrative costs, whatever, 10%, whatever, take that off the top, but at least 90% should go to doing something good. But what we end up, it's like I pay $1 in tax and a penny of work gets done. That makes me
Mhm.
angry.
Yeah.
I that oof, that's, oh man, don't get me started. That makes me angry. I'd like to see, 90 cents of my dollar, you know, do something, whatever it might be. Like, hey, let's improve things. Obviously, there's a shit ton of things we can improve. There's all kinds
Mhm.
of things that need work. But like, when Seattle spends $200 million a year on the homelessness crisis, and like there's now more homeless people, like, what are y'all doing with that money? Where is that going? Like, there's more homeless people now than there were before. What gives, man?
Mhm.
Like, okay, I think that's a reasonable criticism to levy
Well,
against that system of like, hey, you're being irresponsible with our
you know,
work.
what causes that, and this is why it is a twofold problem. Everyone should care equally
Mm-hmm.
about who's getting taxed how much and how efficiently the tax is being used. Is when the tax does get wasted and spent on bullshit and whatever,
Mm-hmm.
if it's not circulating back and doing some good, it must be pooling somewhere, right? You know,
Could be, yeah.
like if it's no longer in circulation, what the hell, who, who's it doing good for?
What's
Just
doing
like
good for
one
the
person,
elites?
you know?
It's
Yeah,
the
like
elites, of course, that always
exactly.
benefit.
So it's like that's why you need to have progressive taxing, you know? Just like, I mean, we've talked about like progressive fining and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's common sense. If you're rich, a $60 speeding ticket doesn't bother you at all. So you're going to speed if you want to and maybe kill someone.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
if you're
like
a billionaire, yeah, you could
yeah,
easily get
like
away with that.
it's in no way whatsoever punitive to you. Now you
Well,
go to Finland, I believe it's called like a day fine or something. So it's like a certain percentage of what you could spend in one day. So
mm,
if you get like a traffic ticket, you might pay $100,000. You know?
yeah, which okay, even if you're a billionaire, that's going to be ouch.
Yeah,
Like, oh shit, that you can't do that for too many days. Um,
yeah, like liquid cash, like
yeah, you don't really have a
that will
whole
hurt a
lot to
billion.
go around. Like, oh, that was the renovation on my second house or something. Whoop,
Yeah.
poof, gone because I was speeding.
Hmm.
And that's reasonable. Also, I think the people in government need to be held more accountable. Like, hey, if you say you're going to do something and you take a bunch of money and spend it and you don't do the thing you say you were going to do, well, you should suffer some kind of consequence, whatever it might be, even if it's just like public ostracism, right? Like, people look down on you and they're like, oh wow, you're an asshole, like,
Shame,
shame,
shame, shame.
shame. Exactly. Maybe some fines, I don't know, jail time even. Because I mean, this is our labor, this is our work held in good faith
Yeah.
and supposed to be used for doing public benefit. And if they
Well,
just kind of pocket that and walk away like, oh
yeah.
well,
A few weeks
I
ago,
guess
I was
that didn't
talking
work
about
out.
a few
uh,
weeks ago, I was talking about some ideas I had for like reforming government or the Constitution or whatever. And it was like, you know what? Like, yeah, at any time you can band together as people and voice whether or not you think your representatives are doing their job and fire them. You know, like you
yeah,
can basically like force another vote or something,
yeah,
and that should be a regular thing.
it should
Like
be, yeah, I
it
agree.
is a job and we are the bosses,
Yes.
yet we don't have any recourse whatsoever except to vote them out when their term is over.
Yeah,
And
which, good
then
luck.
because it's all a two-party system, it's like, oh, this is the most important election ever, and they're the evil ones over there, so
Yeah.
you got to vote for me again.
Yep,
And
exactly.
then people
Oh
buy
no,
that
you're
bullshit.
100% on point there. Like, yeah, basically, the entire system is structured in a way that keeps the elite people kind
Hmm.
of running the show,
Hmm.
and the average person completely incapable of affecting any kind of change.
Yeah.
When we all can agree, like, hey, and this is a thing that's like a nonpartisan thing, that's like
Yeah.
universal, like left, right, whatever. People, everybody is like, this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Like, this shit ain't working.
Eat
We're
the rich.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, like, you got these elites and politicians, and they're spending money just left and right on stupid ass shit, and nothing gets done. If it does get done, it's kind of half ass. I'm just waiting for that rail system in Washington State to finish and just be like a complete fucking shit show, because it will be. Like, oh yeah, it'll work, but like at what cost? Um, and
and
and how well will it work? Like, oh Jesus.
I mean, at some point, civil war, revolution, whatever, it's gonna come. And, like it's definitely brewing.
Yeah.
And I really hope that, whatever, you know, uh, wins out is going to really take a long, hard look at the mistakes and figure out ways to circumvent those, prevent them from happening,
Hmm.
really just look at the chessboard and think 5, 6, 7 moves ahead.
Yeah.
Like, where is corruption going to try to sneak in onto the game board, and
Hmm.
how can I block it? Because,
Yeah.
like now any kind of opposition to the oppression that's coming is being labeled, of course, terrorism. And,
Oh
and
yeah.
as the old saying goes, like, you know, one man's freedom fighter is a orange man baby's terrorist,
Well, I think
or
it
however the
goes,
saying
one
goes.
man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
paraphrasing.
Yeah.
Uh, but like that's really the case, like
Well, and
it,
what I would love to see, I think, because I agree that there is some discontent that's been brewing for decades, probably at
mhm,
least, and is becoming more and more hot, shall we say? It's
yeah,
heating up. Um, and I think so. Inevitably, basically, what you have, due to propaganda and misinformation and all kinds of stuff like that, you have this us versus them, which is like politics, right? There's a left versus the right, the blue team versus the red team, and that's like getting more and more crazy, and everybody's at each other's throats, like, oh man, I'm gonna kill you and kick your ass and da da da. Well, and that'll probably happen. Like, if there is some kind of civil war, it's going to be little skirmishes, like groups of people fighting each other. But what I'd like to see is, like, okay, you you duke it out in the streets for a minute, and then you're like all beat up and bloodied, and like just sitting there, and you start laughing and like, what the fuck are we fighting for? It's those guys in government. Those are
yeah,
the corporatocracy. This is our enemy. You're not
yeah.
my neighbor is not my enemy. It's the corporatocracy. It always has been. And then have that. So instead of people, you have like street level fights and stuff. Now all of a sudden it's a national movement where like
Yeah.
everybody's getting together, and they're like, you know what? We're gonna storm DC or the state capitol or something like that, and just get rid of everybody.
Doesn't
I don't want
matter
to
if
see.
it's US or Canada or wherever you are in the world. Like, everywhere needs Batman. Like,
Yes.
every
Yeah.
city, state, whatever, they need a Batman, at least one Batman. And
Or a V.
or what?
A V. V for Vendetta.
Oh, yeah.
uh,
Hmm. Or a Dexter or whatever, like
yeah.
there has to be, you know, morality isn't black and white either. Like,
No.
there are lines that have to be crossed at some point. There there has to be pushback against the push.
Yeah.
eventually. Otherwise, you're just squashed. So,
Hmm.
and that's not right.
No.
It can't, you can't let all of the propaganda beat you down into submission. Like the old saying of like removing a link from the chain on the dog's collar or the leash or whatever, one by one until they just are fine standing still in one place.
Hmm.
Don't do that. Um,
Well, it
you
should
know,
never come to that.
yeah.
Well, yeah. Oh, man. Jeez, this took a turn, didn't it? But I think it's important. And I would say we should be probably considering some kind of revolution.
Hmm.
But at the same time, it's almost hopeless looking at the way that, like, how entrenched the system has become, that there's kind of no way to really extricate ourselves from that system easily.
No,
Uh, but at the very least, what everybody can do in the meantime, well, first off, plan and talk and communicate, get along, stop fucking fighting each other because that's what they want. Uh, just
yeah.
saying, like, if you start getting angry, you're playing the game that they
Well,
want you to play. Don't do that.
there there
You
will be a
play.
fight. There has to be a fight, but it's going to be against the government. It will
Mm-hmm.
be bloody, but it's not because we want it to be. It's because the government will force it to be.
Well,
They won't
ultimately,
go, they
sure.
won't be like, okay, we'll just fuck off to Timbuktu and you guys can do whatever you want. Of course
Well,
not.
my what I was getting at is that it would be ill advised to, in our current state, just go forth with that, some kind of resistance and stuff. No, we need to get our own house in order before that. Like, your community, we have to band together, be together, learn to work together, help each other out, be strong, so that, like,
But
when the time comes.
you see why they're doing what they're doing now and categorizing such things, such conglomerations that are protected by the First Amendment as terrorist groups.
Mhm.
That's why they're doing that. They
Oh
don't
yeah,
want
well,
you to form in your community and get along with each other and rise up against them. They don't want
mhm.
that.
Oh, of
And that's
course
what
not.
they're doing to
And
squash it.
I'm sure I'm on a list as an anarchist because they're like, "Oh, you're anti-government." And I'm like, "I'm no more anti-government than an atheist is anti-religion." I
Well,
it's just like, I just,
now they're
it does.
creating a database of gun owners, so
Oh yeah,
you're definitely on a list now.
good times. Yeah.
And
All right.
why do you think they're making that list now that they've
I
started
know,
trampling on the First Amendment?
I know very well why that is the case.
They're coming for your guns.
Well, come and take them. Oh, hey, I have a boat. Lost it in a boating accident. Here's the little cheap ass gun that I've got. That's all I have. That's all that's left, man. I'm sorry. Pay no attention to that lump of dirt in the backyard. There's no way that's like a burial site for a whole bunch of guns. Um,
And of course, the nearest lump of dirt is the one that has the landmine in it. And you're
mhm.
like, "Yeah, feel free to dig one up and
Boom. Yep. I know. They're like, oh, I don't know where that came from. It must have been like a relic of World War II. Like, you remember the Japanese? Like, they sent over those balloons and stuff. I guess one of them fell here, an incendiary device, and
out of the 3I Atlas shrapnel or something."
exactly. But that's kind of, I guess, where I'm getting at is, like, we need to. Well, there is still time, but we need to use that time wisely and
Mm.
learn to work together, look past our differences, because fuck, there's differences everywhere. Like, if you just divide things along political lines, everybody can find something to argue about. Like, Jesus.
Mm.
Like, like, hey, don't we want a brighter future? That's what I want. And I don't want bloodshed. That, absolutely not. I'm sure it will be, it's inevitable that there
It
will
is.
be some, but I'd like to keep that down to a minimum. We don't want another Robespierre like lopping people's heads off until his own head gets lopped off. Um, uh, but maybe we need that too. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's no fixing the system as it stands. Like
Yeah,
you can't you gotta let go of that dream
yeah,
that 10 years from now it'll be just like it was in the 90s or something. It's like, no, no, no.
yeah.
You're
Well,
never getting that back.
I
It,
would liken it to you have an old photograph of your house that you're looking at, and then you move it away and you're looking at your old like dilapidated house that's full of rot and
mhm.
bugs, and things are the foundations all cracked and crumbling, and it's unstable, and the paint's peeling, and
Black
there's like
mold.
black mold everywhere, and you just keep looking at that photo like, if I just wish hard enough, it's
Yeah.
going to go back to the way it was. No, you know what, sure, it is conceivably possible to repair that house, but you know how much that's going to cost? Like,
Yeah.
you're better off just tearing it down, let it go. Just, yeah, like you said, let it go, burn it down, tear it down, whatever, strip it to the base layer and build it anew.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
like my parents' house, I sold that off as is, and it was pretty much as you described,
mm-hmm,
and had to be taken down to the frame
yeah,
and restored from the ground up.
mm-hmm,
And it looks from the exterior exactly like, this same blueprint
mm-hmm,
exactly. So it can still be familiar. It can still be on the exact same ground,
mm-hmm,
but it has to be torn down
yeah,
and started over
yes.
and done better.
Well,
Now
yeah,
it
because
has air conditioning. Now it has proper ventilation to prevent mold from
yep.
growing. Like you need things like that that you can't just retrofit. You have to fucking
Well, no,
start
no,
over,
it's like it's kind of like cancer or something, right? You can't just be like, oh, well, that could have prevented cancer, so I'm just going to do that now that I'm full of cancer.
Right.
Like, no, if there's black mold all over the place, you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to put in some ventilation and that'll fix it. Like, well, no, it's permeated throughout. It is like literally ripping the house apart and making it toxic.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And to those who are like founding fathers people, that is what was talked about. I mean, the god of the founding fathers, Jefferson, said that was kind of expected. Like, oh, from time to time, this system is going to have to be reset. Paraphrasing, obviously, but um, like, yeah, this is not perfect.
Yeah. I think
And
Jefferson said something like, "We got to burn this motherfucker down eventually."
well, I don't know if he said that, but
So something
maybe
like
in private. I don't know. We don't have the minutes for that
that.
meeting. Um, but it's true. Like, and I don't think it isn't that controversial. Like, I think, like, okay, I think everybody can agree that things could be a lot better.
Yeah.
So, and as we're kind of outlining here, it's like you can't just be like, oh, we're going to implement one or two policies and it'll just go back to the way that it was back in the heyday, the golden era. No, that time has passed.
Hmm.
It is corrupt. It is absolutely rotten to the core. And there's only one way to do that. Like, you're not going to be like, oh, I've got a box of apples that are all rotten. I'll just pick the rottenest one out, and that'll clean it up, and then I'll put more apples in there. No, they're all going to be rotten.
And even the
It's rotten.
golden era, like you just couldn't see the mold yet. Like
This is true. Yeah.
it was there though. Like,
Well, and as an engineer, like the engineering process, it's like, okay, yeah, okay, we can take a snapshot of the way things are, look at how things got to the way, like, got to where they are, um, and figure things out. All right, let's strip it down and then we'll build it up again, considering the things that we've learned, like learning those
Yep.
lessons and making changes. Like you said, the ventilation and the air conditioning and stuff like that, like making improvements to it to account for those mistakes. But and you know what? Who knows? In another couple hundred years, it'll be the same story. Like it'll
Yeah.
get corrupt again, and we'll have to do it again. But that okay, fine. Maybe it'll be actually instead of a few hundred years, it'll be 1,000 years. I don't know. Like we'll learn lessons and make improvements and that's normal. I don't see like people, I don't know, have this notion that that's like a controversial thing, that like, oh, you're anti-government and anti blah 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 and non-patriot and blah, blah, blah. It's like, actually no, this is the most patriotic thing that I can think of,
Yeah.
is making the place that I live in with the people I live around a better place. And so
There
and
was there was something I said on Facebook a few days ago that you just reminded me of with patriotism, because it was there was I started thinking about tribalism, right?
mm-hmm,
And how that's kind of the core of all the problems going on right now.
mm-hmm,
Um, yeah, here, tribalism, imperialism, and greed are basically like the top three deadly sins of our modern era, and they're cloaked in euphemisms such as patriotism, like which, this whole spreading democracy and making profit and all that stuff. It's really just fancy, nice sounding ways of talking about tribalism and imperialism and greed,
yeah,
and those are not propelling humanity forward. Uh,
no, no, and that's a good point, that we
yeah,
should be. And I wouldn't consider, like,
like
politically
our
I'm not,
our
I
population isn't propelling humanity forward. That's
yeah,
that's just a number, like
exactly. Well,
going forward is about progress,
yeah, I was gonna say, like, politically I wouldn't consider myself a progressive, but I consider myself progressive in the sense of like engineering. Like, oh, I'd like to see tomorrow better than today. Like,
Hmm.
hey, there are things, let's fix them, and then let's improve things. Just like continual improvement. And you know as I've said many times, probably on this show a few times, like if it weren't for wars and conflict between peoples and nations and ideologies, we'd be starfaring now. We would be. Instead, we're like, oh, we're kind of maybe barely going back to the fucking moon with the
Yeah.
Artemis project. Like, what, really? Really? That's all. That's the best that we have after 60 years of this shit. Like, you're shitting me. No way. Like, we should be interstellar now. We should have near light speed travel, and maybe even discover some weird things like interdimensional travel, like wormholes and stuff like that. That should already have been sussed out by now with all the stuff that we are capable of doing. But no, we're instead we burn all of our resources on like killing each other and destroying things when we should be building things. And that infuriates me to no end. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that I think is a goal we should all have, a common goal, because it's like, well, I mean, as far as we know, well, we know a lot more now that maybe this could not be the case, but as far as we know, the only place with life on it is Earth. This is it, spaceship Earth. So we, first off, we got to take care of it. Second off, we got to go exploring and checking out other. I mean, that's what we do. Why aren't we doing that? And people are like, oh, well, that's a waste of money and da da da. And it's like, it is absolutely not. Really, was Christopher Columbus's journey across the Atlantic, was that like a waste of money? I think not. Or, well, I mean, you could say the Vikings that came before too. Was that a
Mm.
waste of resources? traveling over and exploring, finding new places. No, we should be doing that. And in doing so, we find ourselves. We discover more about ourselves by discovering things out there.
Mm.
And it's like, well, one of the things about looking up into space, as I do often, is the realization of how tiny and insignificant we are. Like, holy shit, that is a big universe. That is a big place. We're nothing here.
Yeah.
Like, it takes the pinnacle of our technological prowess just to like be in space. It's a dangerous place, and uh,
I, I saw a video of an astronaut kind of geeking out about going back to the moon with
mhm,
humans, right?
yeah,
And he was like, "This is the first time that we'll be putting humans on the moon and having humans like in orbit of Earth."
mhm.
And somebody was all like, "Wait, what did he say?" As if that we'd never been to the moon before, And it's like you did listen to everything he said, right? There was something that came after the word "and."
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, I can't wait.
like
You
that
know,
makes
the
that makes
the
me sad for humanity. Like, come on.
I well, yeah, it does. I can't wait though for the like Artemis, like actual human landing on the moon. Um, like the moon landing deniers who generally are also flat earthers. Um, uh, like when they see it live streamed in 4K, like how are they going to debunk that shit?
Oh, they will.
Oh, they'll find something. They always
Yeah.
do. But it's like, dude, that okay, it's pretty fucking obvious. Um,
Yeah.
well,
There isn't much on this planet that has a stronger cognitive dissonance than flat Earth.
I know it's
Uh,
the deepest conspiracy bog.
yeah.
Well, and to people, the moon landing, the people who don't think that we went to the moon. I have my doubts about Apollo 11. I'll just say that, but that's just my own thing. But we definitely went to the moon. We did, geez, season one, we did an episode about that, I think, because it
Yeah,
was
that
like
was
an
the
anniversary.
50th anniversary.
Yeah. Well, so to anybody who doubts that the US sent astronauts to the moon, I have one word to say: Russia. Well, I guess it would be the Soviet Union. So, but it's more,
Two words.
it means, it's more punchy when it's one word, because the Soviet Union was adversarial to the US. And of course, there's the space race that was happening. Um, and so if the US didn't go to the moon and faked it all, the very first place, the very first group of people who would have called it out would have been the Soviet Union. But they didn't. They were like, well, congratulations. Because they monitored the whole thing. Like they had the technology. They were like radio transmissions, telescopes, stuff like that. They watched it happen. And they're like, well, congratulations. I guess you beat us. Although it's also kind of annoying that like when Kennedy was still alive, he was pushing for a joint moon mission between the US and the Soviet Union,
Huh.
which some people say that might have been why he was killed.
Hmm.
There's probably some other reasons, but like Oswald didn't do it. I will say that, just like Epstein didn't kill himself. We all know this shit. Um, someday the truth will come to light. But yeah, like Kennedy was pushing for this idea of like a joint mission to the moon between the Soviet Union and the US. Like, oh yeah, this is a huge deal. This is a kind of a challenging thing. Why don't we just come together and work together to do this? And I mean it was almost there. But of course, the powers that be, they shut that shit down real quick because they were like, well, the military industrial complex relies on the funding to keep this conflict alive, all their proxy wars and building up weapons to fight this future war against the Soviets and whatnot. You can't have people working together in space because, like, well, fuck, that would just everybody be like, huh, what are we fighting over, man? Cobra Man.
God.
I mean, at least we did have my favorite mission, the Apollo Soyuz project that did happen in the 70s. So actually, it happened the year I was born. So that's also the year I was born. The Vietnam War came to an end. So take that for what you will. Um, yeah.
Hmm. What when what exactly did the Vietnam War end anyway?
Well, it was 75, so 1975. I can't remember. I think it might have been July.
Huh.
I think.
So so the very month and year you were born,
I believe so. Now that I could be
the war
wrong
that your
about that.
dad was serving in,
Yes, my dad served in Vietnam as a Marine.
w- is he really your dad then?
Ah. Uh-huh. He might have like smuggled me back in a duffel bag
The
from
math isn't
Vietnam.
mathing.
Well, I had so now here's the thing.
Or did he get out early?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's some inconsistencies in various places there, but I remember I went into a convenience store to buy something years back, and there was this Asian lady that was working there, and I don't know, I like bought a pack of smokes or something. I don't know what it was. And she's like, "Oh, you're Asian, aren't you?" And I'm like, "No, no, I'm Scandinavian." And she's like, "No, no, you're Asian. I can see it. You're Asian." And I'm like, "No, I'm Scandinavian." And she's like, "No, no, you're Asian." So maybe she was right. I'd be more inclined to believe that I'm alien. Um,
You do look a hell of a lot like your dad, though.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, this is true.
Only
But
joking.
that doesn't eliminate the Asian or the alien angle.
Right.
Huh.
Came home from Vietnam like, I have a little present.
You know, actually, here's a thought. Um, if two nations have the idea that they want to go to war with each other, um, I think if we had some kind of like global governance system, before they do that, both of them have to go up in like a commercial space ship uh, together and look at Earth from orbit and come back down. And at that point, if they still believe that this conflict is worthy, then okay, they get the green light.
Hmm.
Like, hey, yeah, you can go to war, but you're gonna have to at least take a few orbits around the planet together alone. Just you and the like this leader and that leader, y'all got to go up in a fucking spaceship and orbit the Earth a couple times and come back down. Go through reentry. Oh, super fun. And no like Blue Origin bullshit where you don't have the heat from reentry because you're not doing an orbit. No, no, like SpaceX shit. Like the real deal. Um, where it's like, oh yeah, we might die.
Yeah.
One miscalculation and we burn up in reentry.
Chances are you won't even get 100 meters off the ground.
Yeah. Like I guess that I don't know. That's a thought of mine. If I were to create a new system, like if I were God, right, I'd be like, hey, sure, you can go to war, but before you go to war, you got to do this one thing.
If
Uh,
if somebody if no matter what it is I want to do, if somebody told me first you have to get on a SpaceX flight, I'd say, never mind.
I mean, they have a pretty good track record when it comes to manned flights. Like they've never lost anybody. Their test flights are but I mean that's part of engineering. That you test experimental stuff without a crew, so that when it blows up, it's just a cool explosion and nobody dies. Um, but yeah, I'd like to see that. I can't wait for Artemis. Maybe I don't know when that mission is going, but it'd be really cool to live stream while it's going.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a long mission. Obviously, we're not going to live stream for like a couple days, but maybe once the approach happens, because I know they're going to do like a flyby. So it's kind of like Apollo. They're going to do like an orbit around the moon and just check it out and come back just to test the systems, and then eventually there's going to be like an actual landing, and the orbital flight is coming up um, soon, maybe this year, maybe next. I don't know. I'm bad with dates and times and names and shit. I'm getting old.
Well, speaking of getting old, I think I'm about ready for bed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is a good one.
Late here on this side of the globe.
Yeah. Well, no, it's just perspective. The sun's only like 3,000 feet away. Of course, we all know that. Oh my
It
god.
just goes like this over the map and
Oh yeah, it's like a
a
cone of
flashlight.
light that
Yeah,
that does that somehow. Yeah,
like a laser pointer.
I know. Well, it is funny too that the amount of mental gymnastics required to explain a flat Earth is so complex
Hmm.
that like it defies explanation. It's like, wait, no. Whereas like it's like if it's a globe orbiting a star, like, whoa, it's super simple. All the math checks out, everything works. Um, but oh yeah, no, you got like
Have,
this dome and the firmament, and I don't know, some.
have any of them ever derived a calculus equation to account for the physics that they're claiming are reality?
No,
Yeah, I didn't think
no.
so.
There's apps that will show flat Earth stuff, but I'm not that. Okay, there's some smart people that are flat earthers, and they do some calculations, but again, like I said, it's like a very noodly set of calculations to figure things out, because like, oh yeah, you got to account for that and this and that, and so far their model does not predict anything. So uh
Yeah.
there is that. Man, we got to have a flat earther on. That would be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't think it'll ever happen.
No, probably not. No, I mean, the anti-vaxxer was all we get.
Yeah. I
How
don't
much
think
you
I've
want to
ever
bet
even
he's
met a flat Earth person.
I my brother is kind of maybe
Oh wow.
somebody that sort of thinks that might be a thing.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, never met anybody in person.
Hmm.
So anyway, yeah, my bladder says it's time to call it for now.
Alrighty. Well, thanks for deep sync living with us, all zero of you.
Hey, it's archived, so people can go back and watch it.
Eh,
So if you're one of the people who are watching it, we salute you. Good show. Thank you.
although I will say YouTube really got to step up their game with like how they archive live stuff because it's actually a pain in the ass to go find our live episodes
Yeah.
on the YouTube page. Like, why?
It, that whole platform is a complete shit show.
Yeah.
And they're just like making it worse, as we discovered today. Like,
Mm.
oh yeah, it used to be real easy. Now there's like this weird thing. Like,
It's too
geez,
bad we don't
guys.
have our website anymore, but man, that was a pain in the ass to keep up.
I know. It's crazy. It was like things were easier in the 90s, even though, I remember, oh, you want to install a sound card in your computer, you got to account for IRQs, and there's little jumpers you got to stick in, memory addresses and stuff, and then like add something into autoexec.bat to start up the driver.
Blah,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah.
It's all right. Those who know will know. All right. Well, hopefully everybody enjoyed this, and I'm sure there will be some comments. Definitely leave a comment, leave a like if you feel like it, or a dislike. It's all the same these days. So yeah, we'll see you next week. All
Yeah.
right.